concepts. So we're going to talk about everything auxiliary today. Not too much about the programs, but about who we are, what we do, and how we do it. Okay? Right off, does anybody have questions? Did anybody think of anything? Okay. So of course, they were all men, right? No offense back there. So first thing they said was, we need somebody to do the work. So we need an auxiliary. So the American Legion gave the auxiliary a charter. So we're chartered in essence by the Legion, okay? We are part of them, right? Because we're all family, but we are separate. We have our own charter, our own bank account, our own programs. So we are our own entity, but we all work together because really we have the same goal, right? To help our veterans. So MKP Mary Kelly Perkins told me this joke, and I'll skip out part of it, but does anybody know what the 4 pillars are? The focus of our programs, the 4 pillars.
VA&R, Americanism, Children and Youth. National Security.
Anybody want to guess the 4th one?
Real estate.
Nope.
National Security.
National Security. So our focus is Americanism, great job. VA&R, which is Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation, so our veterans. Our National Security, which is our active duty military and their families. And our children and youth. Okay? So I know everybody's getting ready for reporting, right? And we have, what, 16 programs or 17 programs? But when you think about our 4 pillars, as we work our 4 pillars, we're working the other programs. So when we do children and youth, probably we're doing something with education too, right? Even if it's school supplies, that's education. So when you're doing your reporting, excuse me, think about how everything overlaps, right? One thing we don't think about is with national security. So if you look at the reporting paperwork for national security, it includes our fire department, our police department, right? But they're really only national security during a disaster time. So during our hurricanes, when they were called into active, they were called to help in the hurricane areas, then they're national security. If you're taking donuts to the fire station, you got community service. Okay, so everything kind of rolls one on top of the other. Okay? When I have a script, I get off in my little world, you know, sometimes. Okay. So the structure of the auxiliary. So we have the units, right? That's our foundation. That's our people that do the work in our units. Then we have a district, which how many counties do you have? 5?
4 counties,
4 counties.
16 units.
And District 4 has 6 counties and 10 units. So we're spread over a pretty large geographical area. You guys are too, though. You're spread out. I think so too. Except Pinellas, because I grew up in the 16th district, which is Pinellas and Pasco. And they're right there. You know, in an hour, you're from one to the other. And covered everyone.
For those of us that maybe aren't from Florida or don't understand those county names, can you give us cities?
St. Petersburg,
Okay.
Newport Richie, sorry.
It's West Coast.
It's West Coast.
Yeah,
Yeah, on the Gulf. So it's not Tampa, but toward the Gulf,
Okay.
on the other side. So when I moved to Inverness, which is by Crystal River, I really was shocked that I couldn't post hop really. You know, cause everything's all spread out. So, it was different for me. So the districts are geographic areas, all the units joined together. Then we have departments. So first of all, how many districts do we have in Florida? Does anybody know?
17.
We have numbered to 17, but we have 16 districts because District 10 went away. So they were like Miami-Dade, and they got really small, and the Legion decided that they were gonna take District 10 and split it up, I think between 11 and 14, those two down there, they split it. So of course, since the Legion did that, we had to do the same thing. So we have 16 districts, but they're numbered till 17, and that's why, because 10 got taken away.
Quick question.
Yes.
Are they ever just gonna fix that and just make it 16, or is it always just gonna be number 17 and we know 10?
It's most likely always gonna be numbered 17, with just 10 missing. Then we have departments. So y'all know we're the Department of Florida, right? How many departments do we have? Anybody know? Oh, you hush over there. Miss Mia. Close. 52.
So we have 52 districts?
52 departments.
Departments.
So you have 50 states, right? And then who are the other two?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico and District of Columbia. So Washington. Washington DC is their own department. Okay, so we have 52. Anybody know what the biggest department is? Nope.
Are you talking biggest number-wise, member-wise?
What?
Member-wise. Biggest member-wise.
I choose her.
You guys are gonna be surprised. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. Don't ask me why, because I left the snow as quick as I could. Yeah, Pennsylvania is bigger than us. And Florida is number 2 in membership. We're always number 2. Who's number 1?
Hawaii.
How many members does Hawaii have?
It's like 2,000 and something, or
No. They have 115 members in the whole department. Which is why we're always number 2, because we have like 45,000 members. But it's based on percentage. So, they're always number 1 because they reach their 100%. And they only need a couple to really grow. Yeah. So it's no different than when you look at your unit membership stats, and you get the small unit with 220% and you're struggling to get 75. Because the smaller the numbers, it's a numbers thing with the percentages. Okay? Let's see, what else? I don't want to just stand here and talk all day either, so you guys better like jump in with something. Ask a question. No questions yet? Okay, how about the websites? I heard you guys talking earlier. The ALAFL.org, right? Everything you want to know about Florida. National, ALA4, the number 4, veterans.org. At National, you can pay your dues, print your card, find tons of information about all the programs and a lot of different things, as well as the ALA Academy. How many people have taken classes on ALA Academy?
I've
Good.
got 7 so far.
Excellent. And the class you were talking about before
Yeah.
is the compliance.
Yes.
So there is an academy class on compliance.
I'm taking-
So if anybody is struggling with their 990s and they lost their tax exempt, you know, blah, blah, all that paperwork we have to do, then that gives you an idea how to get it back. Yeah. So, and I've looked at it 2 or 3 times.
Can I add just one thing on that? So our ALAFL.org, you can just log in, anybody can see it.
Yeah.
On the national one, you have to have a login. You don't have to, but you get more information if you create a login.
You got it.
So make sure when you go to the national page, create your own, it'll ask for your member ID number, and you create your own personal login, and that's where you can access the
Yes.
ALA Academy classes
Yes.
Yeah.
and those things. So if you're going to the national page and, you know, make sure you create a login, you'll see so much more and have so much more access.
Yep. So there's also, you know, 2 of the most important resources is our department guide, okay, which are available normally by workshop on July, okay? Lots of information. They're $6.50. If you don't want to spend $6.50, you can download one for free off the website. Don't have to print it. Just, you know, save it on your phone or on your tablet or whatever, and it's right there for you to open whatever. And the new thing with the website this year is that it's searchable. So that is really great. Because if you're looking for something and you're not really sure where to find it, you can type it in the search bar and it'll come up with hopefully where it is. So, department. National also has a unit guide. You can see I actually been reading it. It's a little dog-eared. You can order these online. If you go to National Convention, you can purchase them too. Okay?
Or if you know somebody that's going as a delegate, and you want them to pick you up one, just ask them, they can run it
Yeah.
if you want to.
Is that about the same price?
And all the chaplain ceremonies. All about juniors and how to get your juniors active and going. Legislative. If you have questions about the legislative program. So there's lots of stuff to use as a resource. I started with auxiliary in 2015. Didn't really do too much except hang out with my friends. That was the whole point when I started. You know, was to hang out. By 2 years later, I was the unit membership chair, district membership chair, member at large. You know, once I started, I went all in, I guess.
You couldn't stop.
I couldn't stop, exactly. So, and obviously, what did I know? Nothing. So, the website was my brand. I was out there reading everything I possibly could. And I still do that. Because you know what? There's so much information, there's no way you're going to keep it all in your head. Only MKP keeps it all in her head. The walking encyclopedia. So, any resource, we're all a resource. My cards are up here. You got a question, call me. I'd be glad to help you. Your district president, your past district president, your department people. That's what we're here for, is to help you. And it doesn't matter that you're not in my unit, you're not in my district, you're not in my department. We help each other. So that's important to remember. There's always someone that, if they don't know the answer, they're going to help you find the answer. Okay, so that's important. All right, let's see. Do you guys know how your district president gets elected? It's coming up.
DCC has delegates in conference.
Yeah, DCC. So what's DCC stand for? Very good. You guys got it. District Constitutional Conference. So you'll have delegates from each unit. You go to DCC and you vote on your new district president. How do you get to be a district president? What do you have to do?
Campaign.
You have to be a member. Yeah, you might want to campaign, but when can you campaign? Because there's a restriction.
No.
Not until after the fall conference.
No? Okay, so there's two ways to become a district president. You can get a letter from your unit. Did you get endorsed?
I did.
Okay. So Julie's unit wrote a letter to department saying, I think Julie would be the best district president ever. Then you went to DCC and she was elected. More than one person can run. That's why it's called an election. Just like at your unit. Just because Susie has been the treasurer for 15 years doesn't mean that somebody else can't run. It's an election. Okay, so more than one person.
Doesn't that letter though have to be sent into department and presented during fall conference?
The first announcement is at fall conference. But it doesn't matter, you can send it in now. As long as it's received before DCC.
I think your question is you cannot campaign until that letter is read at fall conference. So that was it.
Oh, well, there you go. I never got to campaign. Okay, so can't campaign till then. The other way to get elected, okay, so in order to get a letter, you had to have been a unit president. That's the only qualification. You were a unit president and your unit said, yes, well, you know, you're gonna be great, we'll write the letter. I was a unit president in St. Petersburg. Obviously, not District 4. When I moved, and it was requested that I run for district president, I couldn't get a letter. So I had to be nominated from the floor. Okay? So since I was nominated from the floor, you cannot campaign. Even though I knew months in advance that I was going to get nominated, I couldn't go to anybody and say, can I have your vote? You can't campaign if you're being nominated from the floor. Any position, unit, district, department, can be nominated from the floor. So I could stand up there at department convention and say, I nominated Julie Kay for department president.
I respectfully decline, thank you.
So anybody can be nominated. There's no, except for the unit president qualification for district, there's no, you don't have to be this, and then this. You can be whatever you want to be. Yep, it's open. Every member in good standing is eligible for office at every level.
What does it mean to be a member in good standing?
What does it mean to be a member in good standing? Good question. Mia, that is correct. Have your dues paid. So it doesn't matter if you've never come to a meeting. If your dues are paid, you are a member in good standing.
That includes even if someone at the time they're nominated is, let's say, under suspension or something for bad conduct, they
No.
still are in good standing?
They're not in good standing if they're under discipline.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're under disciplinary, then you're obviously not in good standing. But once that's gone by, I have a unit that, they elected this member to be the unit president right after the election. She did something kind of stupid. But it really made some of the unit members mad. So they wrote a letter and, you know, got together and they had a formal complaint against her. If that had gone through, then she could not have held office. But it basically came down to, I don't like you.
Quick question. How, like, I guess, then, how long is the time, does it have to be before, like, was she officially elected and then she did the bad thing? Or is it like, Because if you're officially elected at that point, how can they, like, take it back?
She was officially elected, but they had not had they take office in their unit on July the 1st, so after convention. So they had their elections in April, this was like May. So my first duty as district president was to attend their trial. Thank you very much. Lucky me. Did you have a question, Laura?
I was listening to your definition of it, and I loved how Julie stood up and said, respectfully decline, because that does happen. If you haven't gone to a convention or anything like that, I encourage you to go, because it reminds me of the old game Frogger, you know, some people will decline and, but to kind of go off of what Latoya said and the understanding and for you to sit there and say, well, I just don't like you. I have seen that, the gaslighting, the gossiping, the clickiness, and it just, instead of hoping, it's hurting. And I'm no angel. I've made my mistakes and I've atoned for them, and all I can do is say I'm sorry and move forward, because I can't change what I did yesterday. I can just try to say, hopefully my actions from today are, doing other things, but it makes people not want to engage because,
Exactly.
I don't like the purple shirt you have on. And it hurts us all.
It definitely does.
How do we get past that?
I have a comment on her comment, is that, once you are elected office, there are very distinct procedures to remove you. So you can't just, once you're elected, it isn't just like, okay, you did a bad thing, you're under scrutiny, and we don't want you anymore. That can happen. There's a very distinct process.
There absolutely is, and they did follow the process, and they ended up.
Do you vote them out, or how does that work?
That's very delicate. So, what they did was they wrote formal complaints and actually did like a trial. If you don't want to do all that, you're the unit president, and I don't know, you got drunk in the bar and in the canteen, and your unit members came to you and said, that was really inappropriate, don't do it again. If you did it again, they could make a decision to come to you and ask you to resign. I was in a unit that happened. I don't even know what happened to the president. I don't even know the situation. All I know is that the board went to her and said, we really think that it would be a good idea if you resigned. And she did. Now, if she didn't, then you have to go through the whole disciplinary thing.
I didn't think you could ask anybody to resign.
What's in the book, Julie, about that?
So, I was trying to find it in here. I do know because, and it's not just that you have an officer that's acting.
Right,
You have
that's
any member.
Any member,
That
right?
is conduct unbecoming.
Yes.
You can bring charges against them, but when you do that, like Janet says, you have to be very, very careful. If you don't follow the proper procedure,
It's gonna backfire.
it does, because it doesn't work. You have to then follow, did you find it? Thank you. The unit has to, if you, let's say, I'm just gonna use Janet as an example. She's in my unit, and she is trash talking members, gossiping, conduct unbecoming. So the unit gets together, we decide we don't like what she's done. We try to talk to her. She's not listening. She keeps going. What you have to do is you have to send a certified letter 15 days prior to the special meeting only held for this business, and then she has to receive the letter certified, and I think you're supposed to send two, one certified, one regular mail. And then they can either show up or not show up, you have your meeting, and then it has to be brought to the general membership. The executive committee cannot do this on their own. The executive committee then presents the information at a general meeting, and then the members vote if they want to bring charges against said member, and then at that point, you decide, all right, you're gonna do a 30-day suspension, you're gonna do, you know, whatever. But the thing is, unless they've done something really, really bad, like stealing a whole bunch of money, or, you know, like, legit charges brought against them from, like, the police, they still have the right as a member to come to your unit meetings.
Yeah, they can come to the meeting, right, but can't participate in anything else.
Correct. And then if they act up, like Janet said, in the canteen, then that's up to the Legion to discipline. And the Legion can kick you out of coming into the post and suspend you for X amount of 90, whatever days they decide. But again, they can't stop you from coming to a meeting, but they can say you're not allowed to come to the breakfast or the dinner or the fundraiser event, or, you know, just come hang out at the canteen. But it is on page in your handy unit guide, page 56, article 11, discipline of a member, and it has it all written down. So I've always told people, because I've had to help through this process, reach out to your district president or somebody at the department and say, all right, what's going on? Because you want to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's.
And most of the time, it never comes to that, truly. Because we're adults, so the answer to how you deal with that is, we're adults. We should be able to talk to each other, right? So, and trying to always avoid the he said, she said thing, always have a couple of people, you know what I mean? I mean, it's good to talk one-on-one, but if I just make it even matter, you know? And you don't want somebody to feel attacked either.
Yeah. We had a situation like that at our post.
Where she was physically attacked by
Oh,
another
goodness.
member.
Well, that, I was referring to the one that they voted out.
Oh, I was referring to
She
the
was-
other one.
She was
Oh my
posting,
goodness, you guys are wild.
she was posting very, very negative things about some of the members online
Right.
and didn't know what she was talking about. But they sent her the letters like they were supposed to, but she did not come back to defend herself, so
Right.
we voted her out.
Right. There was another incident where.
But we didn't vote that one out. It was a physical, two physical
Alterations,
fights
yeah.
in the hall itself. And the Legionnaires were number one on saying it, and then the
Right.
auxiliary backed them
Yes.
and said it
So
because.
you have to work together. So this kind of took a dark turn here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something positive.
We're doing
Let's-
something good for BA&R.
Cool.
We're, crocheting lap blankets for our veterans.
Nice. I'm very slow because I only do it when I'm cold. So needless to say, I don't get very cold.
So since January, I have done, I'm on my 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Oh my gosh, good for
Lap
you.
blankets for our veterans, and then we're doing community service by, making, smaller blankets for newborn babies in our local hospital.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That can be children in need.
And so we also started a yarn club at our unit, so
Very nice.
we're very, very excited about it.
That is cool.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It is. All right, how about Constitution and bylaws and standing rules?
District Constitution bylaws.
All right.
The reason why I said that about just asking someone to resign, I had been asked a question about somebody was wanting, one of their officers to resign, and they were wanting to ask them to resign, and they had not really, they had just not come to some of the meetings and stuff.
Oh, yeah, no.
And I said, you can't, that's why I said, you can't just ask them to resign, something like that, if it's something
Right.
legal, that goes when you have to do all the paperwork, but
Right,
if
yeah,
it's
but
just going up to somebody going, you need to resign that position.
right. And we get, my husband is the 4th District Sons Commander. So people will come up to me and say, blah, 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 and I'm like, I don't know. Because the Sons and the Legion, a lot of them do have, if particular officers don't attend the meetings, they can be replaced automatically.
Yeah, it's in
We
their
don't
bylaws,
have
it's in their
that.
by-
It's in their bylaws or whatever. We don't have that. So,
We don't have that.
where there's certain, like if you miss 3 meetings, you're automatically out.
Without any kind of an excuse or something, right? You miss 3 meetings,
Yeah,
they can be voted out, so the auxiliary does not do that.
we do not do that.
It's based on your
Yeah,
standing
it's
rules,
standing rules,
your
but no-
constitution and bylaws, yeah.
But most units do not do that. For one thing, I work, you know, so in our meetings at 5:30. And our e-board meetings at 4:30. So there's a lot of times, and I'm on the board, I don't make the e-board meeting. You know, so I'll be glad to, like, not.
I just have a question. What is the procedure when somebody has been elected and then they don't wanna do it any longer?
Then they would resign. They
Hopefully,
could, they would put it in writing that they are resigning their position.
So we have a unit here that had a
Yes.
member that, was elected into an office, got mad, walked out, and basically said, I'm done and I'm not replying to anything else you said. So therefore, they don't have a resignation.
yeah,
So,
Can the position be filled or not?
Shouldn't they,
that's me when.
then have a meeting to
We might have
update
pro
their
tem.
bylaws and constitution to take care of situations?
You can put it in your standing rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it in your standing
So,
rules.
my question is, we can put in our standing rules, if we have an officer that doesn't even bother coming to a meeting, can we put something in our, now, I've been a member for a long time, that's beside the point, but I have seen where we've got officers that do not, they get elected. Why are you gonna get elected and take this position
And not
without
come to
doing
anything.
the position? And then you don't come to meetings.
Right.
So, if there's something we can put in our standing,
so you can only have one election a year.
yes.
And that's it. So if they're elected into a position without that resignation, there's nothing you can do. You can pro tem each meeting. I pro tem the unit treasurer for this meeting to be so-and-so. Unless you get that letter of resignation. If there's a letter of resignation, your constitution, bylaws, and your standing rules should state how that would play out. It's usually an appointment by the president, a recommendation to the executive committee, you know, when it's kind of just brought before, at that point, we have one election.
Right, you have one election, so,
But quick question, so when you do, like, say, when you do rewrite your bylaws and constitution, you can put in that rule, say you don't show up for 3 meetings a weekend.
you could, in your standing rules.
Then
In your standing rules. Because remember, your constitution is your foundation. Foundation. The bylaws are the walls and the ceiling, the roof. Your standing rules are how you're decorating.
And how each
So
unit
each
specifically
unit,
operates.
if you go online to the ALAFL.org, every single unit is out there that has standing rules. You can look at them all and get an idea. Some people have 5. Some people have 5 pages. So it's really how your unit is gonna operate in the standing rules. So like in your bylaws, it says, our unit will meet, and I'm sure this isn't the right verbiage. Our unit will meet once a month and, as stated in the standing rules. So if you change your meeting from Tuesday to Wednesday, you don't have to change your bylaws. You change your standing rules, okay? Constitution and bylaws need to be reviewed, but not really changed very much.
Yeah,
There's some changes, but not too many.
You really only have to address them technically every 10 years. But, I was talking to some of the ladies earlier, there's some things that we wanna change in our standing rules. But I'm not gonna even address those things till after convention and after national for any new updates for constitution and bylaw stuff that we might need to put.
Right, so your constitution and bylaws, most people exactly mirror the state, our department. You know, because, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a lawyer. So I don't wanna be writing constitution and bylaws. What they put there is beautiful. It's good for me. If I wanna address how my house works, then I'm gonna put it in my standing rules. My meeting is on the 3rd Tuesday of every month at 6:30. Our dues are $45. there are no alcoholic beverages allowed in our meetings. You cannot tell people that when you come to the meeting, you must have a red shirt, black pants, blue shoes. You cannot dictate how people dress. Now, our unit, we did put in that on formal occasions, so if we're doing installation, if we're doing for chaplains, if we're doing a memorial service, we wear white blouses, dark pants. That is our uniform for formal occasions, okay? I think that most of us, I mean, I've seen it some, I take that back. I don't wear Daisy Dukes, you know? But if you get somebody coming into your meetings that really is like, woo, you could say, hey, you know, take them aside and just say,
That's not appropriate.
that's probably not appropriate.
Those are your mentoring opportunities.
Yes.
You know, especially if you are reelected to a position within your unit, you have somebody new coming in. It's okay to walk over to them and say, all right, for installation, you typically wear this. You know, you are being, you know, installed as an officer, it's ceremonial, it's celebration.
Yeah.
You know, you can politely ask them to wear appropriate clothes with, you know, without being like,
And my old post, they actually, in the canteen, had it posted. No muscle shirts, no, you know, tank tops, no short shorts, after 5 o'clock. Don't ask me why it was only after 5 o'clock. But those were the rules.
Can you talk a little bit more about pro tem?
Okay, so, does everybody know what pro tem is? Okay. So, if you go to a meeting and your secretary's absent, I'm your unit president, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Mary.
Mary. Mary, would you mind being secretary pro tem tonight? Okay. So you're in that place temporarily for that meeting. So while we're on that subject, what happens if your unit president doesn't come to a meeting, can't come? She's sick.
First vice.
First vice is sick too.
Second vice.
Second vice is sick too.
Secretary.
Fourth.
secretary has to take minutes.
Oh,
It's gonna take a minute.
But then you appoint somebody else.
Sergeant at arms,
No,
your sergeant at arms.
as president.
And then it goes to the secretary.
Nope.
Nope.
So, I'm the unit secretary. All our president and vices aren't there. Remember, and 2 plus in your standing rules, so like our standing rules, say if our quorum is 5. Our quorum is 5. It's not 5 officers.
It's 5
It's
people in
5
general,
members.
right?
That's
Okay.
our quorum,
All right.
okay? I'm the secretary. Those guys now come. So I say to the meeting, I move that Mary is president pro tem for this meeting. And everybody says, aye. So you're the president in charge of that meeting. You don't need to be an officer. You could be the sergeant at arms, although sergeant at arms should be doing sergeant at arms duties. Anybody at that meeting can run the meeting. You have the agenda, let's hope. If you don't, you have the minutes from last time, so you know what needs to be talked about, the old business, right? So you could have a meeting, as long as you have a quorum.
And it is stated in your standing rules, how you want to have that done. Because we have in our standing rules, that we have to have particular officers and a member to
Right.
be our quorum.
Where our standing rules just say 5 members.
Because we wanted to prevent from like 5 people getting together and just saying we're having a meeting and nobody know about it.
I can understand that. But you're restricting being able to have a business meeting at your meeting. Because if you only have 4 people there, it doesn't mean that y'all get there and say, forget it. You still could have a planning meeting, you could have just a round table, share ideas, so that the next month, you could say, hey, this is what we talked about last month, here we got some ideas.
that case, you wouldn't have any votes though, right?
If you do
don't
not have a quorum,
you
there's
can't
no vote.
But you can still have your meeting and just discuss everything.
Yep, now if you have a quorum, so you've got 10 people, Mary's president pro tem, you're having a regular
Then you
meeting.
can't vote.
If your quorum is 5 and you got 4 or 2, you could just sit and talk and
Have a hand session.
have a hen session, say, hey, I was thinking about, why don't we, do this?
We do that a lot.
So, but yes, it's not an automatic thing, your secretary makes a motion, so she says, I move that Mary, Susie, Jane, whoever, is president pro tem.
So congratulations, what if, we were just discussing that, say you felt your secretary was best suited, because obviously she's one who usually takes notes and is more familiar with the president. You wanted her to be pro tem, can she then pro tem someone else to be secretary for that meeting?
You could, I guess, but remember, your secretary, your treasurer, and your sergeant at arms have duties at that meeting already. So you don't wanna take those people from their duties to be the president pro tem. So it's better to choose somebody from the membership that's there. And again, they don't have to have a title, right? They can do it no matter what. Because remember, there's 2 kinds of leadership, right? There's titled leadership. I'm the district president. Does that make me a good leader? No, but it gives me a title. And there's informal leadership, which is what all of you guys are doing today. You're here, you're being mentored, you're learning, you're willing to pass the information on. That's leadership. Okay, so y'all are good. This is a good thing. You guys are real quiet back there. Questions, comments? Y'all doing okay?
We're listening intently.
Oh, yeah, great. You're gonna be like, I wish she'd be quiet.
No.
Okay, as a new member of the auxiliary in general, provisions you put into the standing by or the unit bylaws, that would allow like a snowbird to be part of your
Like a committee member?
committee member or something like that?
Anybody can be a committee member. It doesn't matter if they're a snowbird.
So she leaves, what she does though, she leaves in May and comes back in September.
So there's 2 different things we're talking about, committee members and officers.
Okay.
Okay, so committee chairpersons, they are the lead on their program. So if you're the chairperson for children and youth, and you're not there from May till October, work your program while you're there. And hopefully you have a committee that can continue if you have ongoing projects.
Okay.
You have a phone, you have Zoom, you have computers, so now it's easier to keep in touch. If you're an officer, it's a little more difficult. If you're like a member at large, that's okay. I have a unit that the unit president has retired and she wants to travel. So she didn't want to be the unit president, but everybody at the unit begged her to do 1 more year. So what they're gonna do is, she's here 6 or 8 months, she'll do the meetings. On the other months, the vice president knows that she's not gonna be here, so she'll run the meeting. So they're kinda like sharing the responsibility. I don't know how you could share too much treasurer, or, secretary, something like that, but first vice, second vice, even president, if you've got a good vice president, that'll take those months, so you're kinda sharing the responsibility.
And
She
some
was talking
units,
about like for the
some
executive
units don't
committee.
meet over the summer, some units will take June
Right.
and July off. Well, if you're already taking those months off, you're really
Yeah,
only
that's
missing a few meetings. So
Right.
as long as your unit, and that's based on your standing rules, maybe your
Right.
standing rules state that, our unit meets, every month but June and July.
Right.
Because there's conventions and, things like
Okay,
that.
so in our case, could she still be on our executive committee and be gone? That would still be okay.
And because, as long as, and again, this kinda leads into the minutes. Our standing rules say that our minutes are distributed electronically. available on paper at the post. So if you don't have electronic and you want a copy of the minutes, you can go to the post, we'll give you a copy, okay? So you have your minutes. You could call the president and say, hey, I looked at the minutes, and this is how I feel about blah, 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 blah. You know, so your voice could still be heard. You're just not gonna be there to really put your 2 cents.
And if we had an emergency though, because there's
Oh,
times we've had things pop up and we've all just kind of
We
either
do.
texted
Vote by
or,
text.
you
As
know,
long as it's in your standing rules.
okay.
And I will tell you that instead of texting, email is better.
Okay.
Because, oh my gosh, we forgot that, Memorial Day was coming up. And
My second question to that is, in a extreme emergency situation, last minute vote, we need $100 for the hot dogs, we forgot. Obviously texting will get to people faster. Do you recommend like a dual, because not everybody checks it, I'll admit, like, I'm not gonna get that email in time.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend for like that
the
situation?
problem with the texting is that it's not printable, so you can't put it in your records. Can you, if you can make your text printable?
But I get what she's saying, that you can send out a text saying, check your email.
Yeah,
I
got
need
it,
to
got it.
respond via the email
Oh, that's what
chain,
you're
but you
saying.
can send out a text to
Yeah.
say, hey, there's a vote that needs to be, you know, there's issues to vote on, check your email and reply to the email.
Yeah,
Can I ask, like, do those presidents have a discretionary fund for emergencies? Like
that's up
ours-
to your
I know
unit,
Cindy
so,
has one for
That's in your-
$250.
But then you also have to make sure that it states in there, how often is that $250 accessible? You know, you don't want to see that every day. If it's just, she gets $250, you want to make sure, you know, is it per quarter, per month,
per
yearly?
year, yeah.
You know, because if it doesn't state, your president's like, oh, well, I'm gonna go spend it every day. You know,
And it's
but
also-
it's not, but, you know.
Because we forgot to vote on the hot dogs, that's really not an emergency. So, yeah, I know, we want to party today, we forgot to give me the money.
We're buying it for the post commander, the party's today, it's an emergency.
Yeah. So, what I have done in the past, and it's not,
Oh, one more question too. So say, as going back to like, she was saying, you were saying in the standing rules, like say we typically take the summer off and that's in your standing rules. I know, and I'm not sure if it's in our standing rules, but it's still okay to like say you wanted to vote, like ours, I know December they don't do a meeting, but I'm not quite sure if it's in our standing rules. Can you vote to, with your general,
Yeah.
so it does not have it, okay?
My old unit, we had in our standing rules that June was the month that we celebrated our officers, so there was no June. So I've just gone, bought, come back to your next meeting and say, we forgot to get the hot dogs. I did, you know, buy them. I'm asking if we can have a motion for me to be reimbursed. If they say no, then I'm very blessed that, well, there's my donation. You know, but some people can't do that, and that's okay.
So then just make sure, as Janice says, that if you choose to do that on your own, it's not a guarantee that you're gonna be reimbursed.
Right.
So you can ask for it, it's up to the unit if they grant that or not by the vote.
Right.
So like Janice said, if you choose to do that, be prepared that that could be your donation.
Right. So, you know, you have to play it by ear, and it's your own budget, and like I said, nobody. I mean, we had a lot of, very generous people at my unit, and they would buy a lot of stuff. Well, we did a Derby Day fundraiser, and we made $800, and I'm like, dang, we made $800. How much did we spend? Nothing. So we have no idea how much that fundraiser cost to put on. Because everybody donated everything, which is very generous. But you need to still turn the receipts in and just say, no reimbursement required. Because you know what? We could have made $100. We don't know. So now all receipts are turned in, even if they write on them, no reimbursement required. So we have an idea, because, you know, if you spend all that time on a fundraiser and you make $100, are you really gonna wanna do it again? You know, probably not. So we need to know. Exactly. And the next time, I might not be flush, so I can't spend $100 on the hot dogs in hopes I get reimbursed, you know? So you've gotta keep your receipts and turn them in. Does anybody need to tinkle or anything? We doing all right? All right. Questions again? This has been good discussion, I like. We're doing good? Okay,
Can we touch back up on the Constitution and bylaws again?
of course.
Where you said that doesn't need to be done,
Like every 10 years,
okay,
you need to kind of look at it so you're familiar, make sure your unit members have access to it.
it's okay to give everybody a copy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I usually share, like at our general meeting, and I put it out on our Facebook page, how members can access our unit's constitution and bylaws. And it gives them a chance, if they wanna go look at your unit's constitution or your standing rule,
Right.
they can always go look at what you've got, cause I do that, I go look and see what other units have, and I go, oh, I like that idea, you know, or,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's gonna work for our unit, you know.
I'm sorry.
Where do we look it up?
ALAFL.org,
Yep.
okay. Then there's a drop down for programs. And there's 2 sections now, so the one the Constitution and Bylaws, standing rules is in, is, member support.
Yeah, and it's-
You drop
it's
that down,
not
and then
always
it's by
easy to
district.
Find it on a regular iPhone.
It is not, it's much easier on your computer or an iPad. And then it's by district, so then you open your district and you can see the units in your district. But everything's there, if you wanna go look at Unit 77 standing rules,
Yeah.
District 4, up to that.
I looked at
Everybody
250s
can.
for curiosity.
Well, there was a problem, I know, the last one of the meetings, I have already gotten in contact with Jan Article, or Neighbor, or however you say her last name.
Uh-huh.
That, and another one of the units reached out to me because somehow or another, some of our standing rules have been posted and approved and stamped. Then the next time I went in to look at stuff, they weren't there anymore. The old ones were there. So I had to call Jan and have them, and now they're back again, but that other unit after the last, district meeting, that, one of the Constitution bylaws chairman got a hold of me and said, theirs was not there either. So they had to go have them read. That's why it's good for y'all to go, units can go in and look, make sure that your current standing rules are there. And if they're not, they need to call, they need to get in contact with Jan and let her know.
Period.
Unless department or national is saying, this must be changed.
Okay.
You know, this is a housekeeping, or this is,
A couple of years ago, when they changed to have the spouses of
Yes.
veterans.
that stuff
Spouses
you
of
had to
veterans
change.
Can become auxiliary members, and not just, spouses of veterans are now eligible to be auxiliary members.
Right.
And then when they raised the membership fees, then we wanted,
Yep,
we had to
so that
change
you
that
want-
in there.
Yep.
That's why I'm waiting to do anything else till after the next convention.
Yes. Just in case. The national website is,
Legion-aux.
yeah, but it's like ALA 4 veterans with a 4.
No, that doesn't work anymore.
Oh,
It's
Legion-aux, Legion-aux.
What was it?
FOR.
Legion-aux.
I just type in National American, National.
ALA for veterans.org and we'll scroll up.
Oh, spelled out with a 4. There you go. Thank you.
The number
4, I never put the number 4.
Thank you.
I had a comment
See?
on changing the Constitution.
Yeah.
It also requires a percentage of your membership in its entirety to change it. That's why most of the time you avoid it like the flood.
Right.
Because, you can't get those people. to
Right, because it's usually 2/3,
vote.
2/3 membership, where your standing rules is normally like a majority vote in your unit.
Yes.
At that meeting.
And that can be changed
Every
as
day.
things change. But your constitution and bylaws, you
You
pretty
don't
much,
wanna play with
you
that.
don't need to mess with those
Unless
every
they
so
cut
often.
something
Unless
up on the
unless-
tell
national
us
like
level.
that
Debbie
you guys
said
need
and
to,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay, all right,
But standing rules can be changed every day.
right, okay.
They're fluid, they're how your unit works. A lot of times standing rules are changed in reaction to a problem. So I had a unit that had a lot of difficulty between their fundraising committee and their president. Then he was, setting the price, setting the menu and all that stuff, and the president felt that that really wasn't their job. So they actually put in their standing rules that there will be a fundraising committee, but the committee had to get their ideas back and bring them back for approval. So, hang on, let me see if I can get this thought out correctly. Yes, your membership needs to be involved and kind of like buy into your fundraising ideas. But if you have a fundraising committee and you gave them the authority to plan a fundraiser, then every single step of the way should not have to go back to the membership for authorization. Because what happened was they weren't doing any fundraisers. Because
Too big a pain.
January, they would come up with the idea and form the committee. Now, they're doing St. Patrick's Dinner, okay, we'll say that. January, they came up with the idea. February, they had to bring everything back to the meeting, and now you've got like a week or 2 weeks. Because I think it should be $10, well, you said it should be 12, and now we can't get it approved at all, so guess what?
It don't happen.
It's not happening. Should be some discussion, but there can't be so much against the committee that the thing never happens. And that's what was happening. So, that went in 1 month and then the next month they changed it again. Because they weren't doing anything. Hold on, I had a question, I hold that thought.
Your standing rules, do they have to, I understand you can change them as you want to. Does
Right.
it have to be sanctioned or?
It has to be voted on by the membership.
Okay.
The table up front, or it's the president, the secretary, the chaplain, and the parliamentarian, and you have everybody sitting up there that needs to be up there, and it's done very formally. And then you have my unit, we're a small unit, we all sit around the round table, and we just have our meeting. The president doesn't stand, she still has her gavel, and she'll still open the meeting, and follow the procedure and the agenda and everything. But it just depends on your unit and how your unit wants to kind of provide the meetings.
Recently, everybody, I'm secretary, and I wasn't able to be at all the meetings. So we had recorded the minutes, and so I typed up the minutes, and then we passed them out at the next meeting, and so we made a motion to deviate from reading the minutes, because everybody had a copy of the minutes to read, and then we took the minutes back up, and then they went on with the meeting, rather than the person somebody else. And a couple of times when we've needed to get to business in our meetings, we've deviated to read the minutes, because my minutes are like 4 pages long. Some of them are about, it's longer than that, so read the minutes, and then we deviate to get to what we needed to discuss that day, instead of because our meetings don't start till 7 o'clock. So we were going to like 9 and 10 o'clock.
And nobody would have stayed. And my unit. That's one thing you can put in your standing rules. We do not read the minutes. It is that you have received the minutes in advance via email. We do not read them. If you don't have email, copies are available at the post. So,
You make your minutes available to
everyone gets the minutes. Every member of your unit is entitled to a copy of the minutes. It's your responsibility to make sure they get one.
That's what Julie and I just got through talking about, the same thing not too long ago, though.
Every member can have a copy of the minutes.
Can you put it in a sense though, like you're not, I think we had a situation where it wasn't required for us to send it out via email, but if upon request, if they wanted it, then they could get a copy?
I mean, you could, but remember, every member is entitled to a copy of the minutes. Every member. So, however you get that to them, not in the mail, because it's 78 cents or whatever. Excuse me. So what was happening, we have limited time at our unit meetings. We have an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, and you gotta be done. Because the SAL meeting is right behind ours. We don't have a room. So we would be spending the first 15 to 20 minutes in our meeting by the time you did your 3 Ps, read the minutes, read the treasurer's report. Excuse me. Then you don't have time to do business. This was our solution. Everybody, and it's in our standing rules, everybody gets a copy via email. If you do not have an email on record, and you would like a copy of the minutes, please come to the post and we will give you a copy. It is part of your minutes. Sending balance, but when I put my secretary's book together, it's the minutes and the finance report, correspondence, whatever, I put it all together, that's the packet for what we did this month. And it goes in my secretary book.
But it can be done without the.
It doesn't need to be.
Part in there.
When you email them, the treasurer's report is part of the minutes. So in our minutes, it's ending balance, beginning balance. The finance spreadsheet or whatever gets attached to the minutes and gets put in the book as a little packet. But they don't go out via the email. Now, I know there are people that have problems with, not a problem, an issue with passing out minutes and finance reports because they get left on the table and then, you know, the post commander's going, pick them up. At the end.
You know, said member on her flight, you know, you can go back and reference that.
And to further, with what you're saying, expand. How many people have a motion book? How many units have motion books? So, your motion book, when you're in your minutes,
From the meeting minutes straight into the log, so we set it up as an Excel spreadsheet. copy
right, see, because you guys are fancy, I have a composition book. So while we're sitting there at the meeting, the secretary is doing it for the minutes, and then I, as first vice, was writing it in the motion book. And I would just write, you know, motion made to send $100 to the elementary school. P. You know, or F, it failed.
Oh,
Or it got,
And who made the motion?
I don't care, my motion, but who made it. And remember, secretaries,
that's what I was just gonna ask you. I know where you're going with that now.
I moved to send $100 to the elementary school. President repeats it. Do we have, do we have a second?
Yes.
Wait, after the
second. You
So
seconded
now
it.
it's seconded it. So the second opens up the discussion. I don't care who seconded it. We don't care. We only care that it was seconded.
So is that something that should be worded? That's one thing I've never wanted to be secretary for. Does your motions, because I thought I read somewhere, your motions are supposed to be written the exact way that it said. A motion was made, put who it was made by and what it was for.
So in my secretary minutes, I write, Janet Woods made a motion to send $100 to the elementary school. It was seconded. Discussion followed. Motion passed. That's it, you're done.
So that's how it's supposed to be typed,
Except
right?
for, we learned in her class, it's so-and-so moved to.
You say
Whatever.
I've been trying to get them to do that, but they don't always.
Verbiage.
So you're supposed to say move.
Move.
When you make a motion, you should say, I move.
To make a motion.
No,
I
No,
move.
just
So,
move
like,
to
it says, like,
spend
I
money.
move to spend $100, or you guys just did $300 to the elementary school. So, I move, is that's your, I make a motion.
you made the motion. Very good, you guys are good. So, and how do you, so, we're having discussion, and I said $100, Julie said $300. I say 4. You say 4, okay. So, the president has to ask me, I made the original motion. Who wants to read out their question?
I will.
She's
Well,
mad.
you got her hand up first. Should each unit have standing rules, and why or why not?
So I told you, you know the answer.
Yes, I do, that's why I chose that one.
Oh, now, what's the answer?
The answer is yes. Because that's like you're decorating. It's how you're running your unit.
Exactly. So it's, standing rules apply to your unit only,
Yes.
okay? So everybody's are different, some are the same. One thing I remembered with standing rules, when we went to convention maybe, it might have been a conference, I can't remember. And Jane Hardacre did a presentation, workshop. She said, has anybody thought about who has control of your keys? Over your keys. So like if you have an office,
Yes.
who has your keys? Should that be in your standing rules?
Yes.
And I never gave that a thought. We don't have an office, so I never thought about it.
We do, and yes, we should.
Actual key, like who can get in your office, who can get in your file cabinet? You know, stuff is locked. Who has your keys? So that was just something that I remember. Who's next? LaJoy.
We have
Secretary, the treasurer.
We also have.
Let's see. How many members does it take to start an auxiliary unit? 3?
How many members does it take to start a new unit?
2.
2.
The treasurer and your secretary, I think.
So don't you need a president?
Secretary and treasurer.
Yep. So let's talk about that as a whole. To start a new unit, number one, the request has to come from your Legion. So as an auxiliary member, I can't just go and post 1, 2, 3 and say, hey, I'm going to start an auxiliary unit and I'm going to call it post 1, 2, 3.
No, it's not
The-
posted.
Thank you. I would call it unit 1, 2, 3. She said it's not called the post. Right, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
And you're right, it's not. No, y'all need to correct me if I'm doing something wrong. So the commander and the Legion has to request that department comes in and starts a new unit, okay? And there has to be 10 members to get your charters. And you have to have 10 members to keep your charter.
Oh, you do?
Okay, let's go with
Yes.
that.
You must have 10 to start
And you
and
must have
keep.
10 to keep.
So, let's break that down a little more. What if you only have, just to make sure I'm saying this right, you have your president, secretary, and treasurer, and technically they're the only 3 members you have right now to continue your auxiliary. You technically can't continue.
Notice I didn't say active members.
Oh.
10 paid members.
Oh, okay.
10 paid members. And to keep your unit valid, which isn't the word I really wanted, but it'll do for now. You must have a minimum of 2 officers. You must have a president, secretary, treasurer. The secretary treasurer could be the same person. Okay? So,
So you must have president, secretary / treasurer, right?
secretary treasurer could be the same person.
Okay.
And in smaller units, it frequently is the same person.
And you can do that because your secretary could be appointed.
That's correct.
You can't hold two elected
You
positions.
cannot hold two elected positions.
Oh, so how would that work? So say she gets elected as secretary, she's president, so she can appoint her also as treasurer?
What does your standing rule say?
Our standing will say our secretary is elected.
Yeah, that's how
We
ours
cannot
is.
have that.
That's right.
But our standing rules also say that our secretary and treasurer can be combined though.
There you go.
So. I mean, our, might be in our.
So you can only hold one elected
One
position.
elected.
It's not-
So she can be the secretary and you don't find a treasurer if she agrees.
Yes.
But she has to agree, right? It can't just be like, well, you're gonna be our secretary and treasurer, and she's like, cause I can agree to be secretary, but I told you, I'm not doing no treasury, so.
Because if you get through your election, if you get through your elections and you don't have a treasurer, you're in trouble, number one. And number two, they can be appointed.
Would that be pro,
No,
Not at that point.
I did have a question, because, different organization, and I'm not sure if it came from the standing rules or Robert's rules, but can the president also be the treasurer?
no. Because, well, I take that back. It depends on your standing rules. But 99.9999% of treasurers are elected. So, and I will tell you that, you know, I mean, I'm not naive. I have units in my own district that have president, treasurer, secretary. That's what they turned in. But the president doesn't. You know, so is that a good solution?
No.
No.
It's not ideal.
Does it happen?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, to be realistic, it does happen.
I have a question, how does a widow unit fit in to having a legion?
So a widow
I
unit,
can actually, I
had
can do all
a-
that, I can talk about that if you want me to.
well, let me try and
Okay,
then
gotcha.
fill in. So, post 123 had some difficulties. And they have a unit 123, which is doing okay, you know? The post decides to turn in their charter. So now the unit is a widow unit. They're still unit 123. So they still operate just like they did before. Because they have their own charter, they have their own bank account. They just are gonna meet at, Susie's pool. You know what I mean? So they're gonna do a pool party every first Tuesday of the month.
All right.
Whose house we going to?
But to start a unit, they have to be.
To start a unit, post 123 has got to be a viable post and request from the Department of Florida that they have help starting on auxiliary.
Since we're on that, you just gave me a one good idea. Say your unit typically meets at, like you would hear your code. What if you did want like a special month or end of the year month where it was like at Julie's house or something for your auxiliary meeting? Can you like have a end of year meeting
As
outside?
long as every member of your unit is notified.
Okay.
It should come up in your general meeting, I would think.
It should, but say it's an emergency, okay, because look at the hurricanes. All right, post 158, post 273, both in Pinellas County on the coast. Post 305, also there. Treasure Island had massive damage, okay? 273 just opened last week. 158 in Treasure Island is not open, and they have no day when they're gonna open.
Okay.
So, they went to the post at 125, which is Gulfport, Florida, and said, can we use your hall? They now do combined meetings, they hold combined activities, they're doing fabulous,
That's cool.
working together. But, you know, if 125 had said, you know, no,
We just don't have the room.
we don't have the room, I don't like you, for whatever reason, you know.
Yeah.
They could go to a member's home, they could go to the hotel, they could go to the Waffle House, wherever, and still have their meeting and conduct business. The auxiliary unit does not need to hold their meeting on the post, at the post home. And it has happened. But we're a family. And just like in every family, we have squabbles, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things you gotta work it out. But it is possible, because while we are dependent on the post for our name and for getting us started, once we're started, we have our charter and we have our bank account, we have everything else that we need as a separate entity. We have that freedom to meet where we want to. Now, it's best to, you know, I like meeting at my post home, as everyone does.
Oh, yeah.
But if for whatever reason you can't, then you still can have your meeting. Okay? What's having a thought, Nick?
If you are a widow unit, or you become a widow unit, your membership needs to be signed by the post, typically the adjutant or the commander.
Oh, yes.
At that point, you don't have a post, so it has to be sent to the department adjutant, will sign off on the new members coming in.
And if that ever happened, auxiliary department is right there to help you know what processes you're supposed to use and what you need to do to keep going. I don't know what that other thought was. It lost me. It might come back.
It will.
You're not sure. Maybe. Well, one more thing I want to say while we're right here. I know that in this room we have some dual members, veterans and auxiliary. I know Aurora, she left, right? And you?
Debbie is.
Debbie? Thank you. We appreciate not only your service, but your willingness to work both sides of the house, as it were.
She's special for her husband's command.
Very nice. That just means you hear more than you want to.
Yes, that, yes, she does.
All right, how about back there? Is there a question back there?
Oh, no, I don't know. I do have a question. I have this one.
All right.
That counts.
What's your question?
Okay. Can a unit executive committee make emergency decisions between regular meetings? If so, and how?
So we kind of talked about this before, remember?
Yes. Yes, they can, because they've been given that authority.
The elected, it was an elected
Yeah.
authority, yes. So we kind of talked about, you know, emails better than text simply because of the paper trail. Mia, what's your question? Y'all are so quiet back there in the back. Do you know? How do we obtain a unit guidebook and what kind of information is in it?
Everything you can imagine.
So we get them from department. They're normally available at workshop, which is in late July. Is that when it's been, late July? Well, we should have a cake. And there's a lot of information in it about how to run your unit, about department and programs and the awards. And it's also online on ALAFL.org if you wanted to just download a copy for reference.
I like to scribble on mine.
Yeah, me too. You're very eager. You're up on your knees. You're ready to shout out.
Who approves the use of the emblem of ALA?
Who approves the use of the ALA emblem?
Mary Kelly Perkins.
Kidding. I know, but I know.
She
it's
does,
scary.
because she's the secretary.
That would be nice.
The department secretary. So if you wanna use the emblem, there's a whole process, the process is online. It goes to the department secretary, who in this case is Mary Kelly Burke. Who owns our emblem? Who owns our emblem? The Legion.
The Legion owns our emblem?
The Legion owns our emblem and our logo.
Nope, well, I didn't know that.
You know, you have a really old shirt and it's got the emblem on. Can you just chuck it in the trash or donate it? Can you donate it?
Can you donate it?
No. If there's an emblem on your shirt, you are not supposed to donate it to Goodwill.
No, so, okay, and in case, we had one lady pass away, and, her partner brought in all of her shirts. Are we allowed then, cause we were gonna like put them out on the table at meeting
Oh, yeah.
and ask anybody in
Yeah.
meeting?
What I'm saying is you can't donate them in your thrift store bag.
Okay, we can give them to somebody
You can give them to somebody.
members.
But yeah, at my house, we call it the go bag. You can't put it in the go bag.
Okay.
And if it's, you know, really bad, you just wanna get rid of it, you gotta cut the emblem out before you put it in the trash. What?
Yeah, cut the emblem out and then try to do it again, but you know what the emblem, right?
I don't know, I have a little, just put it on something else. Put it on something else.
Those t-shirts have all the emblems on the back of them.
Just the screen printed ones, you know, that's a good question. I'm just thinking about the emblem.
All the emblems on the back.
That's not really the.
That's not.
That's not ours. I don't know, I just know you're never supposed to donate it like to Goodwill or whatever.
I mean, she just brought it real quick to me, I never thought about it. It'd be like
Hang on.
someone else having access to impersonate us, like police and fire department, they could easily use it, so I never thought of it like that,
Yeah.
so.
False represent the auxiliary because they bought it at Goodwill, you know?
Students are out there getting drunk and getting in fights. They can use that.
Yeah.
Pouring wine over another member's head. Yeah, that's not bad.
What's the procedure? Do we go to the American Legion and we're under first, or do we go to the district level and they go to?
There are
the station?
forms, that you have to fill out, and what you have to send to, the secretary. And then she'll approve it, no, department secretary. And then she'll approve it. Or not.
Yeah.
And then I believe that, National has to approve it as well.
And you have to tell them how many you want.
You wanna tell them how many, so if you're gonna order shirts for your unit, don't tell them you want 10.
Right.
Because every time you reorder, you have to do that. So, you know, get 100 or whatever.
But I have two members that are licensed to do that, and I had to give them form, the Legion had to give him one, and I had to give the auxiliary members a form. And that's how they are able to do any shirt out of this paper.
Yes, they have to be licensed.
Yes, they have to be licensed, and there is a form that you can give, but they have to, it has to be approved. I think it was through National, had to approve them.
Right, it goes through our department secretary first, and then she takes that to National.
Yes,
So this is a form to get licensed first,
yes.
then
Well,
that.
you can do it all together, so you have the shop that's gonna do your shirts, you have them fill out the form. With your paperwork that you send to department secretary, you include that.
Yeah, they have their own company, so they do, within the post, but they do on the outside too for other people, but they've done shirts, hats, stuff like that.
And then when they get to their certain number, then they reapply to add, get more.
So I believe, and I'm not gonna swear to this, but I believe that the shop keeps their license, or their permit or whatever,
Yes.
to reproduce the emblem. The unit has to send that in every time they wanna do, they've reached their limit. So if you only requested 10 shirts, once you sell 10 shirts, you have to get 10 more done and 10 more. So if you're gonna do them, you know, like for sale for your members, order enough or put the number high enough. So give permission for 500. If you only order 10 at a time, that's fine, because you can actually do up to 500. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you don't want a closet full of shirts that you can't sell, but you want approval for enough that you can do it for a couple of years, instead of having to keep. Okay, who's next?
When a vote is called on a motion, does the president vote?
When a vote is, did everybody hear that? No.
For a tiebreaker.
I didn't hear her. For what?
They only vote for a tiebreaker.
Tiebreaker, right?
They don't have to do that.
They do not, no.
Only on a tiebreaker,
Right, but they don't have to vote on a tiebreaker, they can just abstain and then the motion fails.
Oh, okay.
Please.
So she doesn't have to vote to be the tiebreaker.
Right, if she chooses not to vote on a tiebreaker, she does not, the motion just fails.
Okay.
When's the other time a president can vote? There's two more.
Ooh, when she deviates?
Nope.
Oh.
She likes that.
I think you can do the one
Yep, what'd she say?
presidency to another members.
That's what I meant.
That's what.
That's what you meant, okay.
Good answer.
So, I'm the president, and I feel really strongly about this, and I really want to have my voice on this issue. Julie's the vice president. I say, Madam Vice President, would you please take the podium? I step away, I say my say, then what do I do?
Then you ask, but you take it back, she don't have to give it to you, we'll cover this at an ABC meeting.
She doesn't, I can't have it back
Until that vote.
until the vote is done.
Oh, yeah, when it's done, then she goes back.
So then as vice president, I would follow up through that whole motion and vote. And then when that vote is called, it was either approved or failed, passed or failed. Then at that point, I would hand the chair back.
It was brought up at one of our ABC meetings, with the president. She wanted to have something to say about each thing that was brought up, so she kept handing over the text. And finally, after doing it about 3 or 4 times, the question came up, well, does she have to give it back to her? No, she don't. She can just finish out the meeting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was brought up at one of our ABC meetings, and she kept doing it over and over again, and finally, they said, well, does she have to give her back the podium? And she said, no, she doesn't have to give her the podium.
I never heard that.
I haven't heard about ABC schools.
Now, is it not a vote of everybody, or she, whoever was picked, would just be
They
like?
were voting on.
That would be a good follow-up question.
That's
I wonder what the topic was. They wasn't for the whole.
What if you ask the vice to take the podium, but the vice really wants to weigh in on that too, so she says, no, I don't want the podium. Then you just keep going down the line to somebody that
The
doesn't.
second vice, and then on your
Secretary.
second along.
Probably should work that out before the meeting.
So that's kind of the purpose of, I'll come to you, just kind of the purpose of your E-committee meeting is to discuss the issues, and, you know, the president has her voice, and the vice president or member at large or whatever is kind of the president's voice in the general meeting.
I just want to confirm all that. So during the discussion of a motion, the president can't get into that discussion?
No, ma'am.
Something our president doesn't know.
Time to leave the meeting, that's it.
She doesn't know that.
Could the president say something for clarification though?
Do you mean like,
If there was something that wasn't really clear and the president says, okay, I know what it is, I can explain it, and they
No.
say at that time, no?
so,
Oh.
if you're in the general meeting and straighten it out. You as a member need to straighten it out. Say, I'm confused, or please explain. The president is just there to preside over the meeting. She does not have a voice unless she gives over the podium. And there's one other time she absolutely gets to vote. Election.
Yeah, I only said extra, thank you.
You're feeding the crowd. And elections. The president always gets to vote.
Need for elections.
Yep.
Okay, going along with what you said about the president, if things are getting out of hand in a meeting, at that point, can't the president table the meeting? No?
She can bang her gavel. Where's my sergeant at arms?
Yep, there you go. Sergeant at arms. What's that in shape?
So, we're having a discussion, and you guys over here are absolutely wild. So the sergeant at arms is gonna come over. Is this something everyone needs to hear? She can't touch her. Please speak once at a time. Oh yeah, see, here's my hands.
Yes.
Never touch.
I guess I need to clarify what I was trying to ask. Say like there's a motion on the floor and we can't come to a conclusion on something that we're voting on.
The president could maybe say,
Can we table this until next meeting?
since we can't seem to come to a consensus, could I have a motion to table? Something like that.
But can she do that?
She can ask for someone, but if no one makes the motion, then the discussion just keeps entertained. So the president says, I'd like to entertain a motion to table this issue. Or, if it's going on and on, you can stand up and say, Madam President, I call for the vote. Anybody can do that? Anybody can do that.
Because otherwise that could go on for hours.
For hours.
They've done it at
I've seen
convention.
that happen.
Yeah.
Call for the vote.
And they got shut up.
And at that point, discussion stops and you have to vote.
If it was getting out of hand and the president dumped gavel or whatever, can somebody in the general meeting say, I motion to, or move to table this until next time?
Sure.
Or the vote,
And the other thing that the president can do, so the sergeant at arms has tried to help control the room. You've banged your gavel, nobody's paying any attention. You're gonna bang your gavel and you're gonna say,
dismissed?
meeting adjourned.
Yes. Stop it all.
And you're done.
Could the sergeant at arms escort people out of meetings?
Not for many, I'm ours, but I've not read, and we're in that read so many things, but I've not read where I'm allowed to do that. I mean, unless the president.
It's really bad for the sergeant at arms to escort somebody out of the room.
The president can also call for a recess and try to like de-escalate and see what happens. And then if it comes back and it's still a problem, then absolutely, like Janet said, that president can bang the gavel, adjourn the meeting, you're done.
And you're done.
Now, the problem with that is, let's say you didn't get to the discussion that you needed to talk about, you had Friday night dinner coming up and your meeting's on Monday, and now, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Yep.
You can't now all of a sudden reconvene after the problem leaves. The president then has to call a special meeting for the sole purpose of discussing the Friday night dinner.
And that's it. And
That's it, that's all you
And
can
nothing
discuss.
else. So, again, the president depends on her officers, pre-committee, to help her with all of that. So if things are getting out of hand, it's helpful if one of the officers will stand up and say, Madam President, call for the vote. Madam President, I move that we table this issue. Something. You've got to help her because she can't do it. Unless she calls your vice president up and then she can step down and say, I move that we table that. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, that's the purpose of your E-committee, is for all of the officers to get together, discuss what's happening, make some recommend, what they're gonna recommend. And then when you get to general meeting, you know, in the E-committee, you had the idea that you're gonna have Friday night dinner. Somebody there on the E-committee can say, I'd like to make a motion that we have, I move that we have Friday night dinner. Okay? Because remember, the E-committee is making recommendations. They can't vote, they can't pass anything, it's only a recommendation of what they're gonna put forth to the general meeting. Does that make sense? You guys are challenging.
Wait, so can I just ask you, just to be clear, so E-committee technically, right, they're, I mean, cause you know, some are stronger than others, where you're essentially saying they shouldn't be the ones finalizing like a Friday night
They
party.
cannot, the E-committee has no voting power.
Good to know. So it shouldn't go into the meeting, okay, this is what we're doing.
Correct.
The way ours works, we hold a committee meeting before the committee meeting, and any issues that are gonna be presented, whether they be requests for donations, changes to policy, all of those are discussed with the executive committee. Then the first vice brings all of those back to the unit meeting.
And they agree on those dates.
Right, and then you turn it over to the board to make a motion for each of the issues that we bring forth.
Yeah.
That's how our
Very good.
structure works.
Okay, what else have we got?
Okay. How are department chairmen selected? And it's a two-part question. And how do they prepare their engagement plans?
Do you know, ma'am? How are department chairmen selected?
Depending on the position.
Aren't they appointed?
Who said that? They are appointed by
District president.
The department president, incoming.
So district officers are appointed by the district president. Department officers are appointed by the department president. And then each department president, each department chairman, I know it's hot in here, prepares a presentation for a workshop. So then she presents her program to everyone at workshop.
So department officers, aren't elected, or you're saying just the chairman?
I'm talking about chairman.
Chairman.
Chairman are appointed.
I have a question, and forgive me because, in the past years, I've always heard, like, workshop and then boot camp.
Okay,
I'm
boot
sorry if
camp
I'm-
is, that's okay. Boot camp usually, well, they've moved the dates around, but now it's been 4th of July weekend,
Give or take.
give or take. And the department president sends out a call to workshop, kind of formal. So if you're a department chairman, you are invited to come to workshop. And I use the term invited loosely
Boot camp.
because really you're expected to come.
Boot camp.
Boot camp.
Boot camp.
Okay.
And district presidents.
And district presidents. And you spend those 2 or 3 days working on your program engagement plan. And district presidents have a class to give us some information about how we're supposed to do district president stuff. So, yes, ma'am.
Is the first vice president automatically the membership chairman?
What's your standing rules say?
That's what the Legion follows, also it does not have to.
Right. So, in the Legion, first vice is membership.
Yeah.
Auxiliary, it depends on what your standing rules say. So, if your standing rules say the first vice is membership and the second vice is fundraising, then that's what you have to do. And I know that's what the Legion does. Here's my problem with that. I love membership. but I don't wanna be first vice.
Right. Yep.
You know, so, and you've got somebody who's willing to take a leadership and be first vice and back up the president, but she doesn't wanna do membership. So now you've like pigeonholed that. And again, it's a unit decision. And if your standing rules currently say that your first vice always does membership, and you're having difficulty with that, take it out. Change your standing rules. You know, just to say that you'll have president, first vice, second vice, treasurer, secretary, and a membership chairperson appointed by the president. You know? Make it work for your unit. What else we got?
I'll do mine. How is the information on all engagement plans passed on to the districts and units?
Do you know? Okay, so the question is, how is the information from the program engagement plans, which we all know that's about the programs, right, the paperwork, how do the districts and units get that information?
Let's go to the line through the chairs.
So we start with where we were with Aurora. The department chairmen go and they create their program engagement plan. Then we have workshops. Everybody can go to workshop, it's not an officer function, everybody. And the programs are presented. District president may or may not come home with a box full of stuff. Depends.
Yeah.
As we move more into the electronic age, the box is getting a little lighter. Then you have School of Instruction. So that is your district program chairman, present the information. And again, you may or may not walk away with a packet of papers. They are always on the website. ALA.org. Right? So you can always go and read them. Strongly suggest if you're any unit, district, program chairman, familiarize yourself with the program engagement plans. It gives you an overview of the program and also some ideas of what to do and how to work it. So the department chairmen spend a lot of time and energy putting that information together for us. So we need to really utilize it.
On the engagement plans, do those change every year or can they change every year?
They're tweaked every year.
Okay.
National puts their program engagement plans out, I think in like April, beginning of May for the new year.
Okay.
The department program chairmen have that information and they base theirs on that.
Okay.
So your focus might change, your charity might change, they might have some better or newer ideas. So yes, there are some changes every year. Besides the theme.
Oh, yeah.
And the color. And the color. Oh my God. And the colors. I know. All right, what else we got?
I got one. I don't have the answer. It's division of the assembly.
Okay.
I haven't a clue.
So I moved to give $100 to the elementary school for lunch and then $200 for the teacher's lounge. Motion seconded. So now you've got two distinct things. It's long. It's a long motion.
Could we just put it one in one, divided?
It's my motion. I made it all together. So what you're gonna do is say, I move for a division of the question.
Oh.
Then you have two motions to discuss.
Oh.
But who technically made, are you the same person that made those two motions?
No, I made the big long motion.
Oh.
I wanna give $100 and I want 200 for here and I want to see about doing lunch every month for the cafeteria workers and janitors.
So you have three motions on yours.
So now I made just one. I made one motion all together. division of the question.
I move to the division of the question.
So now you have the $100, the $200, and the lunch.
Oh, okay.
So you like split,
Talk about the.
talk about each of them separately. So now you have 3 motions. You could discuss, okay, we're passing the 100, discuss, we're passing the 200, fail the third part, because, you know, does the lunch people really need for us to bring lunch? You know? So, it's a way to, do you know how, like, when they do, congressional bills, and they say they put the little stuff on the end,
The port,
and
pack it all in.
pack it all. So I don't like this bottom part, but the only way to not get the bottom part is to not pass the whole thing. This way it lets you split it so you can,
It's like a line
division of the
item
question.
veto. It's like a line item veto in Congress or whatever.
Kind of, yeah. So you can talk about each thing separately.
So how does that work as far as if you call for the division, is there a vote on that, or is it just?
So you make a motion for division of the question, seconded, we have a motion on the floor for division of the question, I passed.
Okay, and then you have to make separate motions for each of those? Okay.
The original person.
Does that have to be the original?
I think it has
I think
to
if you
be,
just call for that division, you're just then voting on each
they're
section.
just taking each section.
So you don't have to remove to read.
Right,
Because
you're not
then-
amending it, you're just voting on those separate
Separate
issues
sections,
in that
because
whole
it's
big
this
motion.
long
So
big
just
thing.
the motion, and you're just discussing it separately and
So
voting.
would the president like to direct that of like, you know, which motion?
Yeah, the president can say there was a motion on the floor, they can reiterate that, there was a motion on the floor, there's now been a division of the question, so then they can go back, all right, discussion
This
of
one.
this piece.
Okay.
They can guide that,
Right.
but they can't vote or input on it,
Unless she steps away.
unless she steps away, or he.
You're ready.
When must units hold their elections?
Oh, I know what that is.
Between 90 and 15 days, right? Of convention.
Department convention. So not more than 90 days, and not less than 15 days of department convention.
The office of parliamentarian is an appointed or an elected position.
Oh, that is a good one.
It's your standing rules. Or your bylaws, because your bylaws list all your elected officials, right? Usually parliamentarians are appointed.
And not every unit has parliamentarian.
That's correct. We're always happy we just get the name. And depend on somebody in the audience to say, that's not Robert's role. Believe me, we have one in our.
In the bylaws.
Yes.
Everybody wants to go around and become a parliamentarian, so what do they do? What are their responsibilities?
The parliamentarian also is someone with no voice. She sits next to the president, or, you know, depends how your thing is set up. Next to the president, and does the whisper, whisper, whisper when the president goes off on a tangent, or, like division of the question, you get this long thing, so she could lean over and say, try to get somebody else for division of the question.
Then check the standing rules.
Check the
You have to
standing
come-
rules.
you have to run your with it.
Yep, check the bylaws, check that, yes, that's what the parliamentarian does. And she, again, has no voice, she just sits there and guides the president through procedural. The president said conscious, that's very good. She is appointed. I'm sorry.
That position, is that, in that position for 1 year?
Normally, yes, if you're the parliamentarian, it's for the duration of the term. And kind of keeps the president in line too. because, you know, believe it or not, I have a hard time being quiet. So, no, can you believe that?
Okay, so I just have a second question, because my question says, where's my question at?
Oh, Lord.
Who is responsible for setting up the room for a meeting, and what are the responsibilities of that? So I know that it's supposed to be your sergeant at arms, is supposed to set up your room, bring out your gavels, your, make sure your flags are in order and so forth. You're also responsible for tearing out, taking the room apart, right, when you're done. I know they have other responsibilities, keeping the meeting in order. I mean, they can say, let's move on, let's, you know, not have final discussion. So what's the difference between the sergeant at arms and a parliamentarian? Why wouldn't you have your sergeant at arms kind of act as parliamentarian for
Because
the meeting?
the sergeant at arms is overseeing the whole meeting hall. So, in a formal setting, here's the formal table. My sergeant at arms is gonna be right there. So I can look up, catch his eye, he's gonna come around, I'm gonna slip him a note, you know. He's mine to help keep control of the room. Parliamentarian is just keeping control of me.
So the sergeant at arms has control of the room and the parliamentarian gets out of hand, and allows between the president and the parliamentarian, things seem to be getting out of order in a room. Is it the sergeant at arms looking to say to the parliamentarian, let's move on?
Well, what he would do is, so here's the head table. Here's, yeah, you could say call to order. Here's the head table. He could come up, like with the pretense that he's gonna give a note, and kind of go like this.
Yeah.
Just because parliamentary, you know, I'm glad we're learning this. Isn't the secretary the right hand to your president? Like, isn't she basically all of that? Like, I'm confused.
The secretary is recording the meeting. The parliamentarian is keeping it on track with Robert's rules, kind of thing. More. Yeah.
And I have the president can go to the parliament person and say, is this the way I do it?
Exactly.
And then proceed to do it.
Yeah. So she can ask for advice, yes.
And one more question, can the parliamentarian hold more than one position? Because it's an assigned position by the president, so it may also be an elected official in the auxiliary.
There is no rule that says you cannot have an appointed position and an elected position. So, I mean, and, you know, realistically.
Well, if you think about the units, how many are elected officers, but they also hold the chairmanships?
Right,
You know,
exactly.
they're the chairman for whatever
Right.
program.
So you can always have an appointed position and an elected.
So I have a comment on that though.
Yeah.
Go to national and see them in action. And that's where you really see all that interact. It's impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive. I just sat there with my legs. Like I was supposed to. They made me sit in the front row. And Mary's like, you can keep your legs together, right? What else we got, girls? Gentlemen?
What is a quorum? It's based on what's in the chamber rules.
Yes and no. So the question was, is your quorum based on your membership? Yes and no, because this is why I say that. You could have 100 people in your unit and 10 people show up to a meeting, which is kind of standard, the 10% rule, right? So if your quorum is 12, you never can do business. So yes, you want to look at the size of your unit, but you also want to think about how many people come to your meetings.
Can I do mine? I think we may have covered it, but I just want to put it out there just in case. Powers Department officers selected to run for office, where are they elected and installed? And I think we covered it when we were talking about department chairman-ish.
Sort of.
Slipped over the subject.
officers, anybody, any member in good standing can run to be a department officer. And we have historian, chaplain, third vice, second vice, president. That's it. Well, NEC, yeah. Yeah. So, I want to be department third vice. I get an endorsement letter from my unit, and there's no prerequisite. So any member, you don't have to have been, unit president, district president, nothing. You could be a member for one day and get an endorsement letter to be any of those positions. Then a national convention, department convention, it's voted on, and that's how you're elected. The secretary is appointed, and the parliamentarian is appointed. All the rest are elected. Treasurer's appointed, yes.
My question is the nominating committee appointed or elected? Part one. Part two, is the budget committee appointed or elected? The nomination committee is appointed, but the budget committee is elected? Do I have it backwards?
Yeah.
I have it backwards.
So nomination committee, according to our guidebook, is elected. Budget committee is usually appointed, who wants to be on the budget committee? So, who's not supposed to be on the budget committee?
The president?
You can be there for answering questions, but you can't be on the committee.
So I think it actually kind of reads like anyone who signs the checks is not supposed to be on the
Right.
budget committee.
Right.
No, that's audit committee.
Yeah.
Budget committee, anybody can be. Audit committee, sorry, I have to.
But I have a question now. So let's say you have a nominating committee and you have an election committee.
They're the same thing.
See, we break ours up, and it's in our standing rules, but our president, she appoints the nominating committee, but the general members elect the election.
So the election committee is more to oversee the actual election, correct?
Yes.
So a nominating committee is to get your slate, and an election committee is to oversee the actual election.
But you have one, right?
Count the, yes.
Okay, but you have to remember that 282 is our largest unit in our district. So.
So does the
Oh,
nominating
yeah.
And they only have a lot of people show up, yeah, so that election committee would be back there, just like we do at DCC. There's an election committee that's back there, and you have the head teller who kind of oversees everything to make sure that everything is done, on the up and up. And then you can, whoever's, so last year when I ran for district president, I had somebody back there to be my eyes, and they kind of watch, and then that election committee will count all the ballots, and then the overseers will make sure that everything's done correctly, so that's, right? That's what you guys have to do.
Yeah.
But is it okay if you're nominating, like, we does it, like for election day, or should we be separating it? That
If you're a smaller unit, it's fine just to have your nominating committee and have that group of people, and then whoever, like, if you do have two unit presidents running, they can have somebody back there to kind of watch
the count.
So you said that the nominating committee has to be elected. Does that have to go through the motions? Or does the members have to approve the committee?
Yes, so I move that Julie Kay be part of our nominating committee.
I accept the nomination.
I move, so-and-so to be part of the nominating committee. So yes, they have to be nominated, seconded, voted.
But that's based on your standing rules, right? Like, you don't have it on.
Our standing rules for my unit say that they're appointed. But the
Based on your
big rules say that they're elected.
Can we appoint them?
If your standing rules say they can be appointed, then yes. Okay, are we getting brain dead?
My question, last auxiliary member joined the unit to the post of which her service relative is a member.
No. So the question was, if your spouse is a member of one post, do you have to join that unit?
No.
Just
the general meeting from the executive meeting?
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Isn't it basically the idea from the executive?
So the executive committee has their meeting, they have their minutes, and those are like the recommendations. So yes, they're brought to the general meeting as the recommendations from the committee. What was the rest of that?
What is brought to the general meeting from the executive meeting?
All of the recommendations.
Why are we called American Legion Auxiliary Department of Florida and not American Legion Auxiliary State of Florida? Because we have more departments than states, because they're not all the states, so it would be confusing.
Very good. Because Washington DC is its own department, Puerto Rico is its own, they're not states.
So that's why we're departed.
Are we getting brain dead? Okay. More questions? Did you guys think of questions while we've been chatting?
So how we all volunteer, all the time, is there like a app or website, we all talked about that, the best way to keep track of y'all these hours?
Okay, so there's lots of forms. I don't know of any website that does it, but there's the impact forms, there's scratch paper.
Well, I just felt like,
There's,
you don't forget.
correct.
I just found one, I was out.
Did you find it? Excellent. Fallen time, there you go, there's an app.
So-
I really like it.
And it's right when she said.
I think, sorry,
Put your post in there.
I missed the question, is about how to track your volunteer hours.
Yes.
Is there an app or a website that you can?
There's
I mean,
different
the
things,
impact
so
form.
I use Sheets, Google Sheets, and just make a spreadsheet and kind of quick document date, how many hours, and briefly what I did, so I can keep track of it that way. And I was gonna say this earlier, but it's a good segue. So I have been sending out emails to all the unit presidents and district chairmen. Last Sunday, I did a little Zoom, Google Meet, video call on how to write a report. Thursday night, I did one over all the department awards and how to apply for any of those awards, and we really talked about, all right, this unit really excels in this, and this unit really excels in this, make sure you're applying for this award or that award, looking into it. Tomorrow night, I'm doing one on the impact reports, and how to fill out the impact reports, what each section means, what things do, you know, like how to fill it out. And there's a special one for the unit member that goes to the unit president, and then the unit president takes all of those, compiles it, sends it to the district president. The district president takes all the unit forms, compiles it, and sends it to department. Department then compiles, sends it to national, and then national shares it, auxiliary, with the Legion. And the Legion then, just this past week, they were actually all up in Washington, D.C. talking to Congress, and this is how we get our nonprofit status, our funding. This is how we show what we as members have done to keep the funds and the support coming into our veteran organization. So if anybody's interested tomorrow night, let me know if you want to join that Google Meet call for how to do the impact report.
Quick question, the impact reports, so are they technically required or something we're just asking our members nicely to turn in so we can get more money?
I mean,
well, they use different forms, so
right.
that's why I'm like.
So
yeah.
you're supposed to, unit presidents are supposed to turn something into the district. It covers how many hours, yeah, strongly encouraged. It covers like your volunteer hours, your money spent, your in-kind donations. Any of that information is put on the impact report.
But here's the thing. Until last year, maybe the year before, I never used the impact forms. They're very confusing to me.
Yeah.
Now I've, gotten used to them, so it's okay. Report your hours. I told my district, I don't care if you put it on a scrap paper. Tell me what you've been doing, how many hours it took, how much money you spent. That's what I need to know.
That's an area that, and I'll just call out our unit, when Tony and I struggle with that, but we still have people who will give us a scratch of paper
my unit is gonna be stuff. And not to say that older people don't use computers and can't use that kind of stuff. They don't, they won't. So, anything that you can get with information, just a second, is helpful. I'll sit there with my scraps of paper and figure it out and get it on an impact form. Also remember, the impact form is numbers. When we're doing reporting, I can't write a narrative on your numbers. So, we still need to know what you did. Don't tell me that you had 500 hours in community service and not tell me what you did. Because you can't write a narrative and it says we did 500 hours in community service. Okay? So the numbers are great and we need the numbers. But we need to know what y'all did to get the numbers. Yeah.
The juniors have a volunteer log where you fill out.
Excellent.
We got one of those too. You can find out that, we're gonna go to juniors page.
Good.
Print those out and change them to columns. And fill that out and.
That's a good idea because it's simple and I like simple.
So right here, Sue from 202 shared this with me. I'll walk it around, but she just has this little spreadsheet kind of thing, and they have their unit up here, but we can white it out and you can write your own in. But it's just very basic, and if you just kind of keep this next to you, or you know, you can just kind of go fill it out. That is an easy way to keep track of your hours.
And also, I have a unit that did a form similar to that, but if it's, like May, she specifically lists like what you did in May, Memorial Day, whatever happened in May, you know what I mean? But she passes those out to every person that comes to the meeting, and she tricks them on the way out to make sure she gets it back. So then she just puts them in a book, and every month she has, you know, like 8 or 10 or 2, how many ever people went to the meeting. So at least they're turning in something, and people will turn in additional, obviously, but at least it gives, you know, you're not forgetting 6 months down the road. Every month at your meeting, you're filling out a sheet.
I have a question, so like sometimes when I come into auxiliary and our contact, sometimes if anybody's not an auxiliary member, is his hours go down towards us or they have towards the legion? Because he's a legion member.
So it would count for community services. Just like in the opposite side, if you come in and help with a Legion there, that's community service for the public.
So this is what Unit 250 uses.
Yeah.
It also tells you that you can put it, enter into your impact form. This is what we use. So I try to get the ladies to give it to me. I was trying to get it every 3 months. But now they're turning it in now, but.
You created that yourself?
No, I printed it out.
Yeah, that's online. On the ALA.
I just took a calendar post, and I just had that hanging up, and I just put my hours on there with whatever.
Your calendar works great.
Any,
Refrigerator calendar, I write stuff
Yeah.
down, and I go.
any process that works good for you. We don't want to try to box people in. So that Google thing, that would be great. I would love that, because I'm, you know, I'm techy, I love filling out stuff online. But,
We still do offer the paper form.
right,
For people who are old school and
Yeah.
don't wanna conform and migrate to future, so we
Yes.
still do a lot of manual data entry, which is repetitive
it is.
and error inducing. But we
But
offer
we want
both.
the hours.
Either people do the electronic or you give a paper, or you just write it on a note.
Write it on a piece of paper. Do you know what I mean? It
But you're right.
doesn't even have to be a formal sheet.
Capturing the hours is the key.
Exactly. Okay, what happens? Nobody has any more questions?
Mine was how many districts are in Florida? 16.
There. But I mean, So people don't, you don't have any like question in your head that we ain't gonna answer? No?
She brought it up earlier, is, why doesn't the auxiliary, or you probably don't know why, but like, what would be the process to try to get the auxiliary at the national level to do, for life memberships? Payment plan like the Legion has, would
Yes.
that be like you fill out a resolution, do you just call somebody, like, is there a process to try to get them to change something like that?
I'm not exactly sure what the process is, although I'm sure there is one. It would be a suggestion that would have to be made to, national membership, that's who would do that.
Who can make that?
I would present it to Jan Farrington right now as our department membership chairman and see who she has connections to on that membership side of it and kind of work up the.
That she could, yeah, because, I mean, there's several things that the Legion does that we do not.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that,
And that
but
would be helpful if we would do it as well. Why they've not done it, I don't know.
That would be
that's a lot of money,
extremely helpful.
and a lot of people cannot do that.
Why doesn't the auxiliary have like a payment plan for the, like,
To where you could make paper, where I had to fork out $1,000 to become a paid up for life. If they could have offered me when I called and joined and did that, they said they didn't have payments, cause I did the same thing as my husband was doing the payments through the Legion. For his, and all they told me was the auxiliary does not do that at all, you pay it all up front.
yeah,
Lifetime members would make it a lot easier on you.
It would have been a lot
If you have more
easier.
people can afford a lifetime membership, getting your goals every year,
Yeah, if you pay
instead of
it
having to
out.
hump you
Yeah.
down all the time.
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Which one of you ladies are gonna take it up to national?
Oh, I would in a heartbeat, just because I'm the one that wrote my check.
Yeah,